Hello and welcome back to Doctor Who, The Cancelled Years. In this video, we'll be covering Season 34 of Doctor Who. So, let's get started. Season 34 would have been the second season for Hugh Bonneville as the Doctor, the first season for Beverly Cressman as Abigail Norwood, the third season for Keith Barnfather as executive producer, the last season for Stephen Garwood as producer, and the fourth season for Colin Brake as script editor. This season would have been a continuation of Season 33, as nothing noteworthy really changed. There'd be a new TARDIS interior introduced this season. The new interior, like the previous one, was designed to be different to previous interiors while keeping the feeling of being inside the TARDIS. The only change to the title sequence was to include Cressman's credit. And now, let's get to the episodes. The first episode would have been Placebo Effect, written by Gary Russell. This would have been Abigail's first proper adventure. It would have saw the Doctor taking her to Mikaboa's world in the year 3999 for the Intergalactic Olympics. The Intergalactic Olympics is the same as the Earth Olympics. However, it can now have any race from any planet involved and can be hosted anywhere on any planet. The two of them end up getting involved in the plot concerning missing security guards underneath the stadium. They work with the head of security to investigate the missing guards, as well as investigating a new performance-enhancing drug that's being used by some of the athletes. After some investigating, they discover that the women are responsible for the missing guards, as they're kidnapping them and turning them into women. They also discover that they're responsible for the drug, which is slowly turning the athletes into women, and they plan to spread the drug throughout the universe. The story would have saw the Doctor trying to stop the women while creating an antidote for the drug before all the athletes become women. And while he's able to create an antidote for the drug, some of the athletes will never properly recover from the experience. The second episode would have been Corruption of Time, written by Russell T Davies. This would have been a Gallifrey based story. The story sees Leela calling the Doctor to Gallifrey as something is wrong with Romana. On the surface she seems fine, but her and her political policies have had a slight change for the worse, and have resulted in some new, questionable laws being put in place. The story would have been split into two interlinking plots. The first plot sees the Doctor investigating and testing Romana, as well as looking into her new policies. And the second plot sees Leela and Abigail finding a Time Lady, played by Chloe Annette, who's currently dealing with post-regeneration stress. The two help her aid through her regeneration, and she begins to reclaim some of her memories. And when her memories come back to her, she starts claiming that she's Romana, and that the woman who looks like Romana is an imposter. After some testing, they find that the regeneration lady is actually Romana. When she's asked about what caused her regeneration, she remembers that someone snapped her neck and threw her in a suspension chamber before the regeneration could complete. And then about a day ago, the machine malfunctioned and she thawed out, which continued the regeneration. So all this time, Gallifrey has been ruled over by an imposter. After confronting the fake Romana, everyone is shocked to discover that the imposter is Colleen from Season 30's The Gallifreyan Election, who's been using a perception filter to take on the disguise of Romana. Eventually, Colleen is stopped before she can escape Gallifrey and is arrested, and is to be imprisoned in the Dwarf Store alloy chamber for the rest of time. The third episode would have been Vampire Science, written by Kate Orman and Jonathan Blum. The story would have been set in San Francisco and would have saw the return of the vampires from State of Decay and goth opera as the vampire genre was becoming more popular. The story would have been about a group of vampires being spotted on Earth, someone to live on Earth and coexist with the humans, and someone to cause chaos and destruction. But the Doctor doesn't trust any of the vampires, so he goes out of his way to stop them, even those who don't want to cause chaos. The story is mainly a traditional vampire runaround and is mainly there to capitalise on the vampire genre, which was becoming ever more popular in the 90s. The story also would have been a character piece for the Doctor and Abigail, and would have looked a bit into their relationship. The fourth episode would have been The English Way of Death, written by Gareth Roberts. Deciding to return some library books before they become overdue, the Doctor learns of a temporal rift leading to Earth in 1930, which resulted in him learning about the ruthless Zodal, a criminal from a distant planet, who has imprinted his mind onto a cloud of radium, who is intending on destroying Earth, to channel the power of its destruction, so that he can imprint himself permanently onto a new host. However, the Doctor is able to force his ship to take off after sabotaging Zodal's equipment, with his host committing suicide, leaving Zodal to drift helplessly through space. The fifth episode would have been Broken History, written by Stephen Moffat. The story begins with the Doctor showing Abigail around the city in the year 2020. However, Abigail soon discovers that a man is walking to his death as he begins to walk on the construction area, which is about to collapse on him. She dives in at the last second and saves his life. The Doctor and Abigail then help the man home. We learn a little bit about this man. His name is Lee Richards and is currently studying politics in university. After they return him home, they spend a little longer in 2020 before they decide to visit 2050. There they find that the city has gone into chaos, and the city is run by a corrupt politician named Lee Richards, the same Lee Richards from 2020, and that's when the Doctor and Abigail realise their mistake. By saving Lee, they create an alternate timeline where Lee became a politician and ruined the world. The story would show the Doctor and Abigail going up and down Lee's life and changing his life so that he doesn't destroy the city. They simply plan to drive his life away from politics. However, the universe has different plans. History records that Lee dies, but he hasn't yet. So therefore, the Doctor and Abigail accidentally ruin his life so much, he ends up taking his own life, thereby restoring the correct history where Lee died and never became involved in politics. The sixth episode would have been The Rules of War, written by Colin Brake. This story would have saw the return of the Sontarans and would have expanded more upon the Sontaran-Rutan War. The story sees the Doctor and Abigail arriving on the colony world and discovering that the Sontarans have taken over the planet and have turned it into a military camp. Abigail wants to help the people of the world push the Sontarans back into space, but the Doctor has to stop her as he isn't allowed to interfere with the war. Abigail is having none of this though, and abandons the Doctor to join the resistance movement. However, instead of stopping her, the Doctor lets her go and ends up leaving her. The story saw Abigail working on her own with the resistance to try and push back the Sontarans, without any help from the Doctor, as he's forbidden to interfere with the Sontaran war. Eventually, the resistance are ready to fight back, and they prepare to charge the Sontarans. However, the resistance is too weak, and the Sontarans just wipe out Abigail's army. And just as it seems that Abigail is about to die, the Doctor materialises the TARDIS around her. The two of them get into an argument, as Abigail is furious at the Doctor for not helping her, and the Doctor is annoyed as she still doesn't understand why he can't just mess with this war. Had Abigail's plan worked and the Sontarans were defeated, who knows how that would have changed the outcome of the war. Maybe it changed nothing, or maybe it changes history so that the other side win the war. All the Doctor knows is it's a risk he's not prepared to make. The story ends with Abigail upset, and she contemplates on how had she not interfered herself, maybe those people on the planet would still be alive. The final episode would have been Genocide, written by Paul Leonard. The story would have saw the Doctor and Abigail arriving on Earth in its future, and finding that the planet is no longer inhabited by humans. They find that billions of years ago, the Earth was invaded, and taken over by a race of centaur-like aliens named the Tractites. The Tractites have broken time and history, as humans no longer exist. Therefore the Doctor must go back in time and fix everything. The story would have saw the Doctor having to face a difficult decision: wipe out the Tractites or permanently rewrite the timeline. What also would have made the decision harder was the fact that the Tractites are better people than mankind, as they are really eco-friendly and more advanced than mankind will ever be. However, the Doctor ends up making the right decision of wiping out the Tractites and bringing back the human race. And that concludes season 34 of Doctor Who. A pretty decent season overall, but was considered not as strong as the past two. So join me next time for season 35. Until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.